actually think the book title was something like As a Man Thinketh. It became a classic, came out in the early 1900s, but it had to do with the way that we think and the outcomes of that thought process. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought about how you think? And that might sound a little off or a little goofy, but I think it's worth a pause and pivot. I was really struck by one of Jesus's friends, and his name was Peter, and what he wrote. And this is out of his the second letter that he wrote. He said, I've written you several letters, and I've written both of them to remind you. Listen, it says to stimulate you to wholesome thinking. Wholesome thinking. Wow. I want to settle in on that thought today, how we think. For Peter, he was saying there was an appropriate way to think. There's appropriate how. And if you're in the workplace or on the university campus or a homemaker in your circle, it does matter. And you learn a lot. A friend recently, he was starting a new job, and his coach was talking to him about, in this new job, I want you to pay attention to how you network. And it's not just a matter of getting to know people, but it's really how you learning to decode the workplace, how decisions are made, how promotions are given, how work is to be accomplished. Understanding how people think, how you think, is valuable. And let me make clear what Peter said. He said, I want you to think wholesome thinking. Well, sometimes to understand something, you need to look at the other side of the coin. You already know what unwholesome thinking is, or even feels like. It's kind of like taking a walk on a muddy day and your boot gets stuck in the ground, and the more you try to lean on that, pull that boot out, the more the other one gets stuck. You ever felt that way in your thinking or in your communication? Well, sure, right? But in study of kind of stress management and decision making, experts have really gone on to explain unwholesomeness. It's kind of like all or nothing type of thinking. It's catastrophizing. It's this process of overgeneralizing or applying these kind of mental filters that leave the positive out and always go to the jugular. Man, that's not wholesome. That's unwholesome. Communication experts even talk about, employing like this oughts or should and have tos. It's almost like people think they can whip themselves into a decision or others. Here's what Peter meant when he said wholesome thinking. It was what some of the philosophers and writers of his day referred to as pure reason. It was taking, think about this, wholesome thinking had to do with taking pure, unadulterated facts and applying a worldview to those facts so you end up with right actions and healthy emotions. Let me say that again. Wholesome thinking is taking pure, unadulterated facts and applying a worldview to those facts so you end up with positive actions and healthy emotions. Wow, for Peter's readers, they realized that they were subject to a worldview. So Peter actually went on to say, and he reminded his readers about, let me point back to the ancient prophets, Peter said. Now, who were they? Well, they were the people that his readers had learned the principles for life, the things that God had spoken of as for their own protection, for their own well-being, for even who he was. Peter pointed back to say, you take your facts and you apply these great truths to those facts, and that's where you find out your direction, your decision, and you find even healthy emotion. Hey, if you'd like to talk more, hit that contact coach button and let's talk.